Welcome to Sci-Fi Frontier. I'm Dominic, and in this episode, I'm going to be talking about the Expanse Season 4, Episode 5, Oppressor. So, I've tried to do something. I'm going to try to do something different with these reviews. Like I said in the last review, instead of just reviewing the episode, because that kind of gets redundant. Because so far, they've all been good, and the overall season has been good. So what I want to do is pick out an idea from each episode that I think is interesting and discuss it. So in this episode, we find out that So before I go any further, spoiler warning. If you haven't watched this episode, it's better to go see this episode first, then come back. So in this episode, Dr. Lucia Mazur, who was wounded by mercury, she's on the Rosinante at this point. So then through flashbacks, we find out that she had a hand in the destruction of the landing pad for the shuttle. And so we didn't know how deeply involved she was or who all the players were. So in this episode, it's revealed through flashbacks that they originally were just going to blow up the shuttle pad so the shuttle couldn't land. Then as they were setting the explosive devices, the shuttle arrived early and was already coming on its descent. And so Dr. Lucia, she wanted to stop the whole thing right then and there, but she was overpowered by the other people involved. They were bloodthirsty too. They were kind of like mercury, like bloodthirsty, and just wanted to kill someone. So they detonated the bomb, blew up the landing pad, and that just brought the shuttle down, and then gave Mercury an excuse to start murdering everyone. So what I find interesting about this episode is this whole idea of violence, the escalation of violence. Once it starts, it's just like more violence, like putting it with more violence to stop more violence. Like it just escalates and keeps on rolling, and and it just gets worse and worse and worse. And so that's what we see in this episode. You kind of have like you see that nowadays, like political groups that try to get their message across through violence, or their way of dealing with things is through more violence, and thinking that's somehow going to stop violence, which is only going to create more violence. Like rarely does more violence stop violence. It usually just creates more violence, because someone does something to you, then you got to get revenge on them, then they got to get revenge back on you. And so this is a good this is a good way that this gets highlighted in these episodes, especially this one here. But they started off just wanted to destroy the shuttle pad, so the shuttle couldn't land in the first place. And but what's interesting is I was kind of wondering, when did that shuttle pad get built in the first place to get there? It must have been before the Belters were there for them to build that shuttle pad landing. Or did the Belters build that shuttle pad? Like, that's where I'm kind of confused a little bit on this episode. Who built that shuttle pad? Who was the ones that was someone there? Was the Inners there first and built that shuttle pad? Or were the Belters there and then they built the shuttle pad? It doesn't seem like they would have the technical resources at the point they're at with their colony to actually build a shuttle pad in the first place. Or is that their own shuttle pad? Why would they blow up their own shuttle pad, since that's their means of getting off the planet to sell ore? So that part, I'm a little bit, really don't know. I'm kind of confused on that part. But anyway, so you kind of see this, and how now it's just escalating further on this. These people wanted to blow up the shuttle landing pad, and then the other more crazier group inside there, they want to take it further. Well, let's blow it up and maybe take out the shuttle and kill all these people with it. And then now that just escalated further. And now that gave Mercury an excuse to go on his murderous rampage. So now he's going to be even more acts of violence. So now things are like spinning out of control. Where it doesn't work. See, and the thing about it, when people another thing about this episode kind of highlights when people start groups. I'm going to say a political group, for example. Start a political group, you really can't control, like, once a group is started, it's like you can't control who joins that group. Like, nobody can control who calls themselves a Democrat or Republican. Like, you can't control that. Like, the most craziest person can go out and join the group, and then go and then do something horrendous in the name of that group, and there's not really anything, like, what do you do about that, right? So that's what you see in this. You got the most craziest people on the side of the Belters have kind of taken control, because they'll do anything because they're crazy. And then now it's the same thing with the Inners, with Mercury. He's the most craziest guy on that side, so he's the one he'll go to the most extreme, and he's the one that's calling the shots and taking control. So it's this weird, like, things where the most radical people in a group eventually, like a group will start off with the best of intentions, but then there's always radicals within that group, and then the radical ones will overpower the more sane, reasonable people and completely take over that whole group and pervert what it originally started out to be. And you see that all the time in real life and stuff like that. And then you see it happening in this episode. You see it like there's a lot of rational people, normal people on the side of Mercury, but Mercury's the most craziest one. He's the one in charge. He's the one that's calling all the shots. His like mental illness is spreading to the rest of them. And then you can see the same thing on the side of the Belters with the guys that wanted to blow up the pad. They were the most craziest guys, and then they ended up blowing up that pad. Now all the guys that were involved in that pad, except for Dr. Lucia, they're all dead because Mercury shot them all. But now Mercury's not going to stop there. So it's an interesting thing of the cycle of violence and the and how violence can escalate and cause more and more problems and just create more and more violence. I thought that was a really interesting idea that I kind of picked out of this episode anyway. And it's interesting to see where they're taking all this, where all this tension is going. And I think they're doing a pretty good job on this season. Pretty good. So that's everything I got to say in this video. Let me know what you think in the comments section, and I will see you at the next one. Thank you to all of my subscribers, and thank you for watching this video. And if you're new to the channel, like, subscribe, and share. And don't forget to hit the bell icon for notification when new videos are uploaded.